What is up, fellow summoners? Welcome to the channel today. Thanks for stopping by for another champ refresh video. This time around we are looking at the Cosmic class, and the Cosmic class as a whole outside of Hyperion probably really needs to have a total revamp. But there were many champs that I could have picked from. You know, when I was asking for suggestions, I think people were kind of jokingly saying Carnage. I actually took that to heart and decided to actually do it on Carnage. So before I get into it, just bear with me at the time of this recording. I'm not feeling my best. I've got a lot of head congestion, so if there's a lot of weird cutoffs in the video, it's probably because I just had to cut it and blow my nose and come back. So anyway, put all that aside, we'll jump right into the character. I think I've got some really good ideas for him. So yeah, let's jump right into the abilities. So I think that the way that we see the character built, I think they actually limited themselves by trying to so closely copy Carnage to Venom. While technically Carnage does come from Venom, so they do share that similarity. In the comics and in the abilities, if you read through that and do some research, they're actually two very, very different characters. Carnage is actually much more powerful and has some abilities that Venom does not. A lot of his abilities are wrapped up in the fact that the suit itself can morph and create weapons on its own. It can fire off pieces of itself as weapons. It can use portions of itself to tentacles. And we don't really necessarily see, I mean, you see a little bit of that in the animations, but as far as the play style goes, none of that is really incorporated into his abilities. So the character that we see, I would probably, there's not a whole lot I would keep. I would probably just wipe it, totally clean slate, and start over from the ground floor. The only thing that I would keep, but would even tweak slightly, is the chance to bleed every crit that you do, which right now it's an 80% chance to bleed every time you crit, but it's like half a second, so it just kind of ticks off there. The way I would change it is I would lower the chance to bleed per crit, maybe to like 50%, but increase the bleed duration from half a second all the way out to something much, much longer than that, like 4.5, 5.5 seconds. And the reason for that will become more clear as I kind of explain some of his rotation and his abilities that kind of tie into the bleed effects. So let me move into, what do I want to talk about here? Heavy attack or his passive? Let's start with the passive. The suit itself, if you read some of the comics, the suit itself is what is seeing for the host. It actually doesn't even need its eyes. There's one comic where Spider-Man first runs into Carnage and he shoots a web into his face to blind him. However, Carnage says he doesn't need his eyes to see. He can use the suit to see all around him. So I think in that sense, Carnage should not be able to be evaded. Not saying that the enemy, let's say you're going up against Spider-Man or Nightcrawler, if the enemy evades, they can still evade fine, but they would not be able to instantly come back in and attack you. For every time that Spider-Man evades, Carnage evades back with him. So, you know, Carnage is like the ultimate villain kind of Spider-Man, so I think that's kind of a good pairing to go up with him. So yeah, that's the passive ability. The heavy attack can create what I'm going to call a blood leech. It places a debuff on the enemy and leeches 20% of the enemy's regen over 15 seconds. So if nothing else, this debuff that you're going to put on the enemy is going to trigger willpower. So yes, you're probably giving them back a little bit of health if it's just that, but in return you are gaining a small percentage of that health back. Then obviously if they've got willpower, you're going to be triggering their willpower with all of the bleeds that you place on the enemy. Characters who you run up against like Ultron or Iron Man, Superior Iron Man, Angela, Wolverine, X-23, any character that has got some sort of a regen, you'll be able to place a heavy attack, put this blood leech on them, and actually be able to siphon back a small percentage of the regen to yourself. It's not a huge regen. I don't really think that it's a main part of the character that really should be focused on. But I think that it's just a little bit of added feature there to help keep him alive. Because ultimately, this is very much a glass cannon character. He is all based around doing damage. And we still want to keep that flavor to him, but we also want to give him back a tiny bit of regen just to help keep him alive. Because he's going to get beat up pretty good when he does finally take a hit. So that's the passive ability. That's the heavy attack. So let's move into the special attack. And this is, I think, where the biggest change is going to take place. I don't think, and stick with me here, that Carnage should have a special attack 2 or a special attack 3. It should only be 1 bar of power. You can only get 1 bar of power. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but again, stay with me here. Every time you use the special attack 1, the next time you use it, it does something totally different. And this works 3 different times. Then once you've used it the 3rd time, it goes back to the first one, and it's kind of this rotation. So the first time that you use the S1, you're going to get a crit boost, and it's not on a timer. It's just a permanent buff that you have. It increases not your critical damage, but your critical rate. So the reason for this is, if you remember back, he has a chance to bleed with every crit. So the first time you use a special, you do your damage, but then you get this crit buff, and the goal is to put as many bleed effects on the character as you can before you use your special attack again. Once you use your special attack the second time, and let me go back, the first time that you use it, I think he should proc, or not proc out, but form some of those, like, they're almost like axe, knife, slicer things, so he should use that the first time. The second time that you use your special attack, it should incorporate that, but also have the second part of it be a ranged attack, incorporating him being able to throw portions of himself. So again, he uses that axe, knife thing, but to do physical damage, but then at the end of that, he also would be able to throw that. And when you use the when you use the special attack the second time, it's going to increase the duration of all bleed effects that were on the character when you used it by 10 seconds. Now that seems like a huge amount of time, but again, we're all kind of leading up towards the third time you use your special attack. So the S1, when you use it the first time, increase crit rate. You're trying to do as many bleed effects, get as many crits as you can on the character. As soon as you feel comfortable, you've got maybe 3, 4, 5 on there, you're going to use his special attack again. This is going to increase all bleed effects on the enemy now by 10 seconds. Whatever it was at, if it had 3 more seconds left, it's now got 13 seconds. And what you're going to do at this point is try to stack as many bleeds on top of those as you can before you finally finish off with it's not an S3, but at the third time you use your special attack. The third time you use your special attack, your damage is going to be increased by an X number. I don't know what that number is going to be. Technically you could probably get a lot of bleed effects, so I would say probably 300, maybe 400 damage. Damage increased by this X number for every debuff effect that is on the enemy. So this would include bleed effects and your blood leech effect. Also, if you stun, parry stun them, that technically is another effect. So what you want to do is try to get all of these effects, all these debuffs on the enemy, build them all up as much as you can, and once you have that all together, that's when you fire off your special attack. It's going to consume all of those bleed effects to do increased damage. What it is not going to consume, though, is your blood leech. That will stay on through, and then it kind of rinses, and you'll have to repeat this all over again. So once you finally have used the your special attack for the third time, it's so difficult not to say S1, S2, S3. But once you've used your special attack for the third time, you're doing a massive amount of damage. You're wiping the slate clean, no more bleed effects on the character. You'll still have the blood leech, but you're going to start all over again, trying to get back to your first special attack to get your crit rate boost, build up as many bleeds as you can, use your special attack again, have those elongated, try to stack as many on top of that, then fire off the special attack a third time, and then that'll kind of be the rotation. So I know that that's kind of a very different way to look at special attacks. I'm sure people will probably have varying different opinions on that, but I don't know, I think it's a cool idea. And then finally, his awakened ability, I'm going to call Symbiotic Madness. So stick with me again. At the end of a 5-hit combo, ending with a medium attack, the suit itself, the symbiotic Carnage itself, has an X chance, which the higher your awakened ability is, the higher this percentage chance will go. At the end of a 5-hit attack that ends with a medium, there's an X chance that the symbiote Carnage reaches out and causes 1 additional hit. So technically it would be 6 hits. And the reason for that, obviously, is to do additional damage, but then also that has a chance to crit, which again has a chance to cause another bleed effect, which plays into him trying to build up as many bleed effects as possible. So I don't know. I think Carnage, I was really looking forward to Carnage as a character. I think he's really cool. I think they totally whiffed on this one, unfortunately, by trying to make him too much like Venom. But I think in changing him to being just a glass cannon, not worrying about trying to mutate buffs or anything like that, all you're doing, you're just trying to do damage. That's really all you have to worry about. The only thing you're going to want to play here is making sure you have blood leech up, and then trying to time when you want to use your specials. But outside of that, you're just trying to get intercepts, trying to parry stun. You're just trying to dump as much damage in as you can. And I think by doing that play style, I think more closely mirrors the actual character. Let me know what you guys think. Would love to hear suggestions, good or bad. Don't hurt my feelings. But yeah, definitely let me know what you think. Kabam probably does not listen to these. I would not expect them to. I don't actually see them ever reaching out to me or reaching out to anybody in the community for help with building these characters. But ultimately, I don't know. I like doing these champ refreshes. I think they're a lot of fun, if for no other reason, just to kind of speculate and see how we would make changes ourselves. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next one, which will be on the, what do we have left? The Mystic class? Yeah, I think the Mystic class is the only one left, so definitely leave your suggestions down in the comment section below on who you'd like me to do the champ refresh on in the Mystic class. Alright guys, have a great weekend. Until I see you in the next one, take care.